The Crimson Throne Hall had seen many moments of fear, but this one was different. It was not the fear of battle, not the fear of death, it was the fear of a question that should never have been asked. Queen Zalara of the Dominion stood from her throne of living metal. She was tall, powerful, and ancient, her presence alone enough to make hardened warriors bow their heads. Her armor glowed softly under the red lights of the hall, the same royal warmar that had led fleets into fire and ended civilizations. But something was wrong. Zalara slowly lifted her clawed hand and touched the center of her chest plate. Her breath stopped. The cracks were gone. The deep fractures earned in the War of Falling Suns had always been there. They were scars of victory, scars no engineer had been able to erase. The armor was bonded to her blood, grown and reforged only by royal ritual. Yet now, it was flawless, stronger, smoother, reinforced. At weak points, no design had ever corrected. Her tail struck the stone floor with a sharp crack. Silence spread across the hall. Like a living thing, her voice cut through. "It who fixed this armor?" The words echoed again and again. No one answered. Generals stiffened. Engineers avoided her gaze. Servants pressed themselves against the walls, wishing to disappear. Every being in the hall knew the answer, and every one of them was afraid to speak it. Queen Zalara's eyes narrowed. She took one step forward, then another, descending from the throne. Each step made the ancient floor tremble. "This armor is sacred," she said coldly. "It cannot be altered without my command." She looked across the hall, and yet it was her gaze burned. "Speak." At the far end of the hall, among prisoners and maintenance workers, a human man stood very still. Elias Ward had never planned to be here. He was not a soldier, not a diplomat, just a human technician brought aboard as cheap labor after the war. His hands were rough from tools, his body tired from long hours repairing things no one else wanted to touch. Humans were not respected in the Dominion. They were useful, disposable. Elias felt his heart pound as guards shifted closer to him. He had known this moment might come. He had hoped it never would, but silence was no longer possible. He stepped forward. The sound of his boots echoed across the massive hall. Weapons rose instantly. Energy blades hummed to life. Targeting lights crawled over his chest, his head, his legs. Gasps spread through the crowd. A human, stepping forward. Queen Zalara stopped walking. Her eyes locked onto him. Elias raised his hands slowly, showing he carried no weapon. His voice trembled, but he forced the words out. "I did," he said. "I fixed your armor." The hall erupted in shocked whispers. Touching royal armor without permission was treason. Altering it was a death sentence. Queen Zalara stared at him as if he were a strange insect that had dared to speak. She approached him slowly, her shadow swallowing him whole. She towered over him now. "That armor has crushed empires," she said quietly. "It is alive with my blood. My people failed to heal it for centuries." She leaned closer. "And you think a human hand could do better?" Elias swallowed. His knees wanted to bend. His instincts screamed to kneel, to beg, to run. He did none of those things. "I wasn't trying to be better," he said softly. "I just saw where it was breaking." Her eyes flicked briefly to the reinforced joints, the rebalanced plating, the hidden internal supports. She saw it, and that frightened her more than anger ever could. "Why?" she demanded. "Why risk death?" Elias met her gaze, Because broken armor gets people killed, he said, and because someone had to fix what war keeps destroying. The queen did not speak, for the first time in her long reign. She felt uncertainty. A human had touched her armor, and instead of weakening it, he had made it stronger. The galaxy, unknowingly, stood at the edge of change. The hall was darker now. The shadows from the glowing armor stretched long across the walls, twisting like living creatures. Queen Zalara had returned to her throne, but she did not sit. Her claws tapped the stone floor lightly, a rhythm that sounded like the heartbeat of a predator. Elias Ward stood at the center of the hall, his hands still raised. Every eye in the room was fixed on him. Silence was complete, heavy, suffocating. "Guards," the queen said finally, her voice sharp as glass. "Bring him forward." Two massive Varelian warriors moved. Their claws were sharp enough to crush bone, yet they handled Elias carefully, lifting him between them. He stumbled only once, then caught himself. The crowd murmured. Humans were fragile, weak. Yet here he stood, not trembling, not begging. Zalara's eyes glinted with both curiosity and suspicion. "You have touched the sacred armor," she said, "and altered it without permission. You must answer for this. Speak the truth, human. Did you act on your own, or were you sent by someone?" "I acted alone," Elias said, his voice steady. "No one told me to do it. No one asked me. I saw it broken, and I fixed it." The queen leaned forward, her head tilting slightly. It was a gesture that made her look both smaller and more terrifying. "You risked death. You know that." "Yes," Elias said. "I know, and I accept it." A ripple of shock passed through the audience. No human had ever shown such courage or such recklessness. Some of the Queen's own engineers looked at him with disbelief, others with shame. Their failure to repair the armor had been exposed, and this human had done what they could not. Zalara's tail flicked in agitation. "Your species is small. Your hands are weak. Your minds are simple. Why should I not strike you down immediately?" Elias met her gaze. "Because," he said quietly, "sometimes the smallest hands can do what the strongest cannot." The hall was silent again. Even the guards, trained to obey without question, paused as if the air itself had frozen. The queen stood, her full height casting a shadow over Elias. "You do not understand what you have done," she said. Her voice softened, almost imperceptibly. "This armor is more than metal. It is bonded to me. It carries the blood of my ancestors. It has defended my people for centuries. Every crack, every dent is part of its story. You repaired history itself." Elias swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to rewrite history. I just wanted it to survive. So you could survive." A faint whisper spread through the crowd. Survival. The word carried weight. In the Dominion, survival was sacred, more than honor, more than victory. Zalara did not speak for a long time. She circled him slowly, her claws tapping lightly against the floor. The guards tensed. The generals shifted, unsure whether to intervene or not. Finally, she stopped. Her eyes, glowing faintly, looked directly into Ilias's. "You have courage," she said, "and skill. Rare skill. Human skill." Elias felt a flicker of hope. He had not expected praise. In this hall, he had only expected death. But the Queen's next words cut deeper than any weapon. Yet you have broken the law of the Dominion. You have touched what no one may touch. You have altered what only I may command. The silence returned, heavier than before. Your trial will be public, she continued. The Council of War will decide your fate. And if they choose execution, it will be swift. Elias nodded, his heart hammering. Death was possible, likely, but he did not flinch. He had chosen this path. He had accepted it. The Queen rose from her throne fully now, moving with grace and menace. She extended one clawed hand. Follow me, she said. The human obeyed. Step by step, he followed the Queen into the heart of the Dominion's power, past banners of victory, past monuments to dead worlds, into the council chamber. The walls here were lined with statues of past queens, each one more terrifying than the last. Every one had fought wars that had burned entire planets, and now a human stood among them as the doors closed behind him. Elias felt the weight of every life lost, every battle fought, every empire crushed. And yet, despite it all, he did not feel fear. Not yet. He only felt the resolve that had carried him across countless hours of work and danger. The hands that had repaired what no one else could, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, even a human could earn respect in a galaxy that had never seen him as more than small, weak and insignificant. And somewhere deep inside him, he sensed the faintest shift in the Queen's mind. She was curious, perhaps even impressed. The trial was about to begin, but Elias Ward knew one thing for certain. This human would not cower. Not now, not ever. The council chamber was vast, darker than the hall above, and colder. Shadows stretched along the walls like fingers reaching for intruders. Statues of past queens, frozen in bronze and stone, loomed over the room, silent witnesses to centuries of conquest. Elias Ward stood in the center, hands still raised slightly, as the massive doors shut behind him with a thunderous echo. Around him, the Council of War assembled. They were the Dominion's most feared generals, each one scarred, each one a veteran of 1,000 campaigns. Their armor gleamed like black obsidian, their eyes sharp and cold. They looked down at the human, some with contempt, some with disbelief, all with silent judgment. Queen Zalara stood behind him, her claws resting lightly on the edge of the high dais. Her eyes glinted with an unreadable expression. Elias felt the weight of her gaze like a tidal wave, relentless. Overwhelming, but he did not break. One of the generals, a towering Varelian named Korath, stepped forward. His voice was deep, filled with contempt. You dare come before the council, human. You dare claim you have altered the sacred armor of the Queen herself. Did you think we would not see your insolence? Elias swallowed, but did not step back. I did not come to defy you, he said. I came to fix what was broken. If that is insolence, I accept it. But I did not lie. I did not cheat. I only repaired, another general hissed. Repaired. You speak of repairing what centuries of our best engineers could not. What right does a human have to touch our history? Elias lifted his chin. The right of necessity, he said. When armor breaks, soldiers die. When machines fail, ships are lost. I fixed it so others could survive. If that is a crime, then I am guilty, but it was not done for pride. It was done for life. A murmur spread through the chamber. Even some of the hardened generals paused, exchanging glances. None had expected a human to speak with such certainty. None had expected him to act with such courage. Queen Zalara stepped forward. Her voice cut through the murmur like a blade. Enough. She raised one hand, and the room fell silent again. This trial is not about your audacity alone, human. It is about skill, courage, and the understanding of forces you were not born to control. You have touched what no one else could, and yet we must test you further. Elias felt his heart race. He had expected death, punishment, maybe exile. But a test, a challenge. Perhaps this was a chance. The Queen gestured to the armor. Demonstrate to the council what you have done. Show them that your hands have strengthened history itself. Elias approached the armor carefully. It gleamed like living fire, every plate flawless, every joint perfectly aligned. He ran his fingers over the reinforced sections. He knew the weaknesses that had threatened the Queen, the points where the armor could have shattered under the stress of battle. Every repair he had made was precise, elegant, and strong. The generals watched him like predators circling prey. Some of them doubted, others sneered. A human, they thought, could never understand the complexity of Varelian armor. Elias raised one panel slightly, showing the hidden reinforcements he had added. The original design could not handle sustained pressure at these joints, he explained. It would fail if the Queen was struck here or here. He tapped the plates gently. I added strength here and here, redistributed the weight, and sealed the fractures without altering the bond to her blood. A silence fell over the chamber. Even the skeptics could see it. Now the armor was flawless. The human had done what their engineers had failed to do for centuries. Then Korath sneered again. Strength alone does not impress me. Why risk yourself, human? Why touch what could have killed you instantly? Elias met Korath's eyes without flinching. Because I know what it is to see people die. I know what it is to feel helpless while others suffer. I could not stand by and do nothing. I had to try. That is why I risked my life. The Queen's eyes softened slightly, though her voice remained commanding. You speak of courage, human. That is rare, even among my own kind. You have skill, you have bravery, and you have a heart willing to act when others hesitate. Elias nodded. He felt exhausted but alive. For the first time in his life, he realized that courage could be stronger than fear, and even a single human could stand tall in the presence of a galaxy of warriors. The council murmured, unsure of how to respond. Some were outraged, some impressed, but none could deny the truth. Elias had earned a measure of respect in a room where respect was hard to come. By dot Queen Zalara leaned forward. Her eyes were sharp, piercing, and filled with thought. The council may judge, but know this, human, your actions have changed more than armor. You have changed the way we see you, and perhaps the way we see ourselves. Elias felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this trial would not end in death. Perhaps, for the first time, a human could prove that even the smallest beings could make a difference among the stars. The trial was only beginning. But Elias Ward knew one thing. He had already begun to change history. The Council of War was not satisfied with words. Skill alone could not prove a human's worth in the Dominion. Queen Zalara's voice echoed through the chamber as she declared the next phase of Elias's trial. You have repaired the armor, she said, her eyes scanning the generals and then returning to him. Now you must show that it can endure the trials of battle. You will face the crucible Elias's stomach dropped. He had studied schematics, read manuals, and repaired machines under extreme conditions. But the crucible was legendary. It was a test designed to destroy the unworthy. Many warriors, even the bravest Varelians, had entered it and never returned. Yet he did not hesitate. He had chosen this path. Fear would not stop him. The chamber doors opened, revealing a deep pit, its walls lined with molten metal and searing heat. A platform hovered above it, glowing with energy fields designed to simulate the pressures of space battles and the force of crushing blows. Armor-clad dummies stood across the platform, each one wielding weapons far deadlier than anything Elias had ever seen. The generals watched with cold eyes. "Survive," one of them hissed, "or die." Elias stepped forward, feeling the heat rise, his clothes already damp with sweat. He reached for the armor. The metal was cool to his touch, oddly alive, as if it understood the danger ahead. He adjusted the joints, testing the balance he had restored. Every plate, every reinforcement, every hidden support he had designed was in place. The crucible began. Energy beams shot from the walls, striking the armor. Elias felt the vibrations through his hands and forearms, but the armor held. The reinforced joints absorbed the shocks. The cracks that once would have split open remained sealed. Then the dummies moved. Massive arms swung, hammers crashed, simulated plasma blasts scorched the air. Elias leaped, rolled, and twisted with instinctive precision. Every movement tested the limits of the armor, and every time it held. The generals muttered among themselves. Even the hardest among them could not hide their surprise. The human's repair was not just functional. It was exceptional, but the crucible was not finished. The platform tilted suddenly, as if gravity itself had turned against him. A wave of molten metal surged from the pit below. Elias dove, just in time, landing hard but safe. Sparks flew as he rolled, the armor absorbing the blows, guiding him, protecting him in ways no unskilled hand could manage. He thought of the soldiers he had saved. He thought of the Queen, of the galaxy depending on strength and survival. Every fear, every doubt, every instinct to run or hide was pushed aside. Only action remained, only precision, only courage. Queen Zalara watched silently. The heat, the energy, the force of centuries of design being tested, it was a display she had never imagined possible. A human, fragile and small, was not only surviving but mastering the armor. A hammer swung from above, fast and lethal. Elias twisted just enough. The reinforced joint held. Sparks flew. Pain radiated through his arms, but he did not stop. Every move was calculated, every dodge precise. He was not just surviving. He was proving that life, skill, and intelligence could overcome the impossible. Finally, the crucible ended. The energy fields collapsed. The molten metal cooled. The platform settled. Elias stood, breathing heavily, his clothes scorched. His hands robbed, the armor remained flawless. Not a crack, not a dent, not a weakness. Silence filled the chamber. The generals stared. Shock, disbelief, and an unwilling respect shone in their eyes. Even those who had doubted, even those who had mocked him, could not deny the truth. Queen Zalara stepped forward. The heat from the crucible radiated off her scales, but her eyes were calm, calculating. She circled Elias slowly. "You have done what no Varelian could," she said, her voice low and deliberate. "You faced the test of fire and survived. Not only that you mastered it, Elias looked up, exhausted but alive. The fear he had felt earlier was gone, replaced with something heavier. Pride in his work, pride in his courage, and pride in the truth that even a human could stand tall among warriors of legend. You have proven your skill, the Queen continued, but skill without loyalty is nothing. The Council will now decide if your life has value beyond your hands. Elias nodded, still catching his breath. He had done what he came to do. He had fixed what others could not, and he had survived what others feared. Now, he would face judgment, but he knew one thing. He had already earned respect where no human had before. The Council whispered among themselves, tension thick in the air. The crucible had not only tested the armor, it had tested Elias himself, and the galaxy had never seen courage like this from a human. For the first time, the smallest species in the room had made giants pause. The Council of War whispered among themselves like a storm about to break. Elias Ward stood at the center of the chamber, his chest heaving, sweat running down his brow, and his hands raw from the crucible. His clothes were singed, but the armor gleamed perfectly, as if it had absorbed every danger and grown stronger. The generals leaned forward, their eyes sharp, calculating, trying to balance fear, pride, and disbelief. None could argue that the human had survived the impossible. None could deny that he had mastered armor centuries of Varelians had struggled to repair. One of the oldest generals, a veteran named Veren, cleared his throat. He has skill. I do not deny it. He has survived where our finest would have perished, yet his clawed hands drummed against the stone floor. Yet he is human, not one of us. Can we trust a creature who has no history with the Dominion? Another general, younger, sneered. Trust, he risks his life, yes. But for what? For a human desire to be heroic. What if he betrays us tomorrow? What if he damages the Queen in his foolishness? Ilias's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. Words could wait. Actions had already spoken. Queen Zalara rose from her high dais. The room went still. Even the whispers died. Her presence alone silenced the chamber. She moved with grace and authority, stepping forward until she stood directly before Elias. He speaks truth, she said, her voice calm but heavy. He has repaired what centuries could not. He has survived what the strongest among us feared. And yet you speak of mistrust. The council fell silent. Her eyes scanned each general, letting her words sink like weighty stones. Then her gaze returned to Elias. You acted for the sake of life. That is rare. That is courage. That is loyalty beyond understanding. Elias blinked, surprised. He had faced the crucible, expecting death, but not recognition, not praise from the Queen of the Varelians herself. The Queen circled him slowly, claws tapping lightly on the stone floor. I could kill you. I could exile you. I could order your body to be tested in ways humans would not survive. Yet I do none of these things. Why? Elias swallowed. Because you see the truth, he said quietly. I did it to save lives. I did it to protect what cannot be left broken. She stopped in front of him, the glow of her scales reflecting off the polished armor. You have strength. You have skill. You have understanding. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated your kind for far too long. A murmur rose from the generals. Some leaned forward, intrigued. Some scowled, still unwilling to admit admiration for a human. Varon cleared his throat again. Your Majesty, should we not still judge him? We cannot ignore the laws. He touched royal armor without permission. He defied tradition. Zalara's eyes blazed. And yet he has shown the essence of what the Dominion values most: courage, skill, and the will to act when others hesitate. Do you dare tell me that this human is not worthy of life when he has done what your ancestors could not? The council faltered. None could answer. Every general felt the truth. The human had earned respect through action. Not title, not blood, not ritual. Zalara leaned closer to Elias, her voice soft but commanding. I will offer you a choice, human. You may leave this place, return to your kind, and never be seen here again. Or you may stay, learn from us, and perhaps shape the future of this dominion in ways even I cannot imagine. Elias's heart raced. Stay, learn, shape the future. The words were overwhelming, almost impossible to believe. He had only wanted to repair armor and survive. He had never dreamed of trust, let alone opportunity, from a queen like Zalara. He met her gaze. I will stay, he said firmly. If it helps, if I can protect, if I can learn, I will stay. The queen nodded once. Good. Then you shall earn your place, human. Not because you are small, not because you are human, but because you have shown what your kind rarely dares to show: courage, skill, and heart. A wave of tension left the room. Some generals still doubted, but most now watched with cautious respect. For the first time in history, a human was not a weak creature to be tolerated or mocked. He was an equal in courage and intelligence, at least in action. Elias exhaled slowly. He was still nervous, still exhausted from the crucible, but a spark of hope ignited in him. He had faced death and earned trust. He had survived the impossible and gained respect. The queen gestured to the armor. It is yours to maintain, human. Study it, protect it. Let your hands keep it alive, as you did today. And know this, if you fail, it will not be mercy you face but justice. Elias bowed his head slightly, a gesture of both respect and gratitude. I will not fail, he promised. Queen Zalara's eyes softened, just for a moment, then hardened once more. See that you do not. The Dominion watches human, and history has a way of remembering those who act with courage. As the council dispersed, whispers still echoing in the chamber, Elias realized something incredible. He had survived judgment. He had earned trust. And in a galaxy that had never respected humans, he had carved a small but permanent place for himself. And for the first time, he truly believed that humans could stand among giant sand, maybe even lead them someday. The sky above the Varelian capital burned red. Smoke rose from distant battlefields, where fleets clashed in the void and the screams of dying machines echoed across space. Queen Zalara's flagship hovered above the chaos, its massive hull cutting through the clouds like a predator. Elias Ward stood beside her, his hands steady despite the storm of fire and war around them. For the first time, his work would not be tested in simulation. This was real. Lives depended on him. The armor he had repaired would face crushing force, plasma blasts, and the fury of alien weapons. And he had to be ready. The Queen's gaze fell on him. Do you understand what we face, human? she asked, her voice calm but commanding. This is not the crucible. This is war, and even the strongest warriors can die here. I understand, Elias said. His voice was quiet but firm. And I will do everything I can to protect you. And your people? Zalara studied him for a long moment. Very well. Stay close. Learn, observe, and act when needed. The fate of the Dominion may rest on your hands as much as mine. They entered the battlefield. Energy beams streaked across the sky, striking ships, exploding in showers of fire. Alien fighters dove and twisted in impossible maneuvers, while Varelian ships responded with precision strikes, each blast reshaping the stars. Elias could feel the heat through the armor, the vibrations in the hull, the raw force of war. Suddenly, one of the Queen's flanks was under attack. A massive enemy vessel fired directly at her flagship, and energy cascaded toward the shields. Elias felt the armor tighten instinctively. He adjusted the joints he had reinforced, absorbing the vibrations. Sparks flew, and he realized his work was holding, protecting the Queen in ways she may not even notice. Human. Zalara shouted over the roar. The flank is critical. Can you assist? Ilias's mind raced. The Varelian controls were advanced, but not impossible to learn. He moved quickly, using his knowledge of the armor's hidden supports to guide energy distribution, redirecting force away from vulnerable areas. The shields shimmered, pulsing in response, as if the armor itself trusted him. The enemy ship retaliated, firing a beam directly at the Queen. Elias braced, adjusting the armor's reinforcement plates. The energy struck, and the armor groaned under the pressure, but it held. Sparks flew, molten edges softened by the internal stabilizers he had installed. He could feel the armor protecting not just him, but the Queen, the ship, and everyone aboard. Zalara's eyes widened in surprise. She had expected skilled warriors, brilliant engineers, but not this. A human using intuition and ingenuity to control a living suit of war armor in the midst of combat. Excellent, she said under her breath. He adapts faster than I imagined. The battle raged on. Elias moved with a rhythm that surprised even him. His human instincts guided him. His knowledge of mechanics saved the armor from breaking under impossible stress. And his courage carried him through moments that would have frozen anyone else in terror. A smaller strike team of enemy fighters attempted to board the Queen's flagship. The corridors below were tight, the risk of casualties high. Elias ran toward the breach, adjusting armor plates to shield crew members, guiding them out of danger. One Varelian officer fell, trapped by falling debris. Without hesitation, Elias hoisted him to safety, the armor taking the weight, absorbing the impact. When the skirmish ended, the Queen stood beside him once more, her scales glinting under battle lights. She looked at him, eyes sharp and proud. You have exceeded every expectation, human. Not only have you repaired armor, you have protected life, guided our fleet, and survived where even my best warriors would hesitate. Elias exhaled, exhausted, yet a spark of satisfaction lit him. He had entered the Dominion as a stranger, a human nobody respected. Now he was more than that. He was a guardian, a trusted hand, a part of history in motion. The Queen's voice softened just slightly, rare for her. You are learning quickly, human. And in doing so, you remind me that courage is not measured by size or species, but by action. Elias nodded. For the first time, he felt truly at home in a galaxy that had never wanted humans to stand tall. Today, his courage, his skill, and his heart had proven that even the smallest of species could make a difference among giants. The battle was not yet over. The enemy would return. The war would rage. But Elias Ward knew one thing. He would face every trial, every fire, every impossible challenge, and he would survive. Because he had courage. And in this moment, courage was stronger than fear, and for the first time, a human's hand was trusted by a queen.